Today on Time About the Movies, Jennifer Lopez wants a baby so badly that she's willing to go as low as sleep with the guy from Hawaii Five-0. We'll talk about the backup plan. We've got several people who will later go on to have bigger successes in superhero movies and comic book films, including Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Zoe Saldana, Chris Evans, you name it, Idris Elba. We'll take a look at them in The Losers. Disney Nature has a new film out after their success with Earth the following year, Oceans. And we have Ryan Reynolds in a superhero movie you might not be familiar with. I certainly didn't know this existed until I saw it on the list. Along with Jeff Bridges and Lisa Kudrow, Paperman. So we got 4 films to look at today. It's April 23rd, 2010. This is Time About the Movies. A new episode starts next. I love the fact that as soon as I cut away from that, the next scene was Alex O'Loughlin going, I shouldn't have had to see that. No, nobody should have had to see that. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we're taking a look at the 4 films released on April 23rd, 2010. And unfortunately, that's the scene from the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is The Backup Plan. As I mentioned before, Jennifer Lopez is a woman who wants to be a single mother through planned pregnancy, but soon falls in love with a man who wants to father her unborn child, played by Alex O'Loughlin. And as I mentioned before, Alex O'Loughlin was a guy that CBS really was pushing to be the next big superstar. I mean, they were really pushing him in all these different shows. Like he was in the show Moonlight, which had a cult following. He was in Three Rivers, which had just been canceled at this point. But then in the fall, he would star in Hawaii Five-0, which ended up being his biggest success overall. And then, surprisingly, after that show ended, he really has not done a whole lot since then. I mean, he's been in movies before this. The Holiday, he was in The Invisible, August Rush, Whiteout. But then after Hawaii Five-0 ended, he just kind of went away. And it's just like, I don't know what happened. I mean, but there was a time when they were really pushing this guy to be the next big superstar. And it just never really happened. But then again, when you star in movies like this, it's definitely not a good, positive direction for your career. But I will say, though, at times the movie has that promise, like that scene in the trailer I showed you where they keep meeting each other, and then Jennifer Lopez turns the season and goes like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And Alex O'Loughlin's just like, I know, right? We meet each other all the time. It's just like, if there were more scenes like that in this movie, then I probably would have given the movie more credit than it deserves. But no, it's about as generic and as phony as you think it is, and yeah, it definitely does not deliver on the promises that it would have given you beforehand. It's just kind of a lazy comedy, and this is one where Jennifer Lopez really does not look like she wants to be in this at all. Like, too many good people involved in this too. You got Eric Christian Wilson, you see Melissa McCarthy in there before she became a star herself with Mike and Molly the following fall. Anthony Anderson, Linda Lavin. This was actually the last film Tom Bosley did. It was just, as it was released 6 months after, he died 6 months after its release came out. So you expect a whole lot more from them, but this is really the problem with CBS Films in general. CBS Films' biggest problem in general is that it has all these movies that really do feel like pilots for a television show, like Extraordinary Measures felt like the pilot for a television drama, except it had Harrison Ford and Brendan Fraser among the cast in there, so it's going to have some more prestigious names in there. This feels like a rom-com pilot with Jennifer Lopez and Alex O'Loughlin, kind of like a precursor to something like a maybe This Is Us, and the problem with CBS Films in general was that all their movies felt like TV pilots, and that was something that was a problem with them back in the 80s when they were under Warner Brothers. They had those movies like, infamous flops like Windy City, and, we talked about this beforehand with most notably Windy City, but then stuff like Table for Five, Finders Keepers. Then they'd have stuff like Better Off Dead and other movies like that, but it seemed like nothing really had ever changed because the list of films they have here: Faster, The Mechanic, Beastly, The Woman in Black, Salmon Fishing in the Yemen. Not a whole lot of these movies really scream out theatrical releases in general. I mean, none of them really do. And there are some good movies in here. We'll get to a couple of them down the road here, but at the same time, it's just like nothing really from CBS Films really made a big lasting impact. And then again, when you have scenes like the way the trailer ends, it's just like, I'm sorry, gross out humor in general just doesn't work, and it doesn't work if it's written this badly. And that's a badly written scene when you have to use that as the main focal point of your trailer. It's just like, there's nothing funny about that at all. Nothing at all. It also doesn't help that you have a television director doing this, Alan Pohl, who's more known for his work on the show Swingtown, which lasted one season. But he did some HBO stuff, though. 6 Feet Under, Rome, Big Love, The Newsroom. So he does have much better films in general, TV shows in general, under his name. But yeah, this was just nothing that was worth it in the long run. This was just a film that just didn't work. It's a disappointment. It's a really lackluster film. The promises are definitely there. Jennifer Lopez is fine in the movie. I mean, she's not the worst thing about it. Neither is Alex O'Loughlin. I think they both have decent chemistry overall. It's another one of those movies where the script is so generic and so forced, it just ruins the ebb and flow of the enjoyment of the film in general. It just didn't work. So yeah, it came and went. Nobody really ever talks about it anymore. So yeah, that's all you got to say about this one, the backup plan. So let's see if we can turn the tide with our next movie here. Another DC movie and another film with Zoe Saldana in it. We just talked about her last week in Death and Funeral. Now she's with an ensemble in The Losers.
The CIA's most elite just became.
The losers know too much.
Kill them. They're most wanted.
That's not like foreboding at all. Want your life back?
You're gonna have to steal it.
We are waging a war against the CIA.
That sounds fun.
It's volatile.
Oh, are you sure you've done this before?
Right now, not the time.
The Losers, April 23rd.
It's not just Zoe Saldana is in another April movie. It's Columbus Short. Coincidentally, they were both in the same movie last week, Death at a Funeral. And needless to say, that's definitely a much better movie than this. In 2010, there was this surprising kick of Men on a Mission movie. Let's get all these out here. We have the A-Team coming up, The Expendables, Red, and this is just another DC film that we'll get to later on, which pretty much has that same thing in general, which is pretty much Red. I just mentioned it beforehand, but this is The Losers from director Sylvan White and starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Zoe Saldana, Chris Evans, Idris Elba, Columbus Short, Holt Mulcahy, Jason Patric, Peter Macdizzi, and Oscar Daneta. It's based off the DC comic by Andy Diggle and Jock, and centers on a mission of an elite U.S. Special Forces unit sent into the Bolivian jungle on a search and destroy mission. The team, including Clay, Jensen, Roke, Pooch, and Cougar, find themselves the target of a lethal betrayal investigated from inside by a powerful enemy known only as Max, played by Jason Patric. Presumed dead, the group makes plans to even the score when they're joined by the mysterious Aisha, a beautiful operative with her own agenda. Working together, they must remain deep undercover while tracking the heavily guarded Max, a ruthless man bent on embroiling the role in a new high-tech global war. Judging from the trailer, you get a sense that this is going for something like a Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, Rock and Roll, basically a Guy Ritchie movie, which would be fine if this was him directing it, but this is the same guy that gave us Stomp the Yard and I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. So you can pretty much tell where that goes from there. And that's really the problem with the film in general. I mean, Tim Story was, like how Tim Story was not the best person to direct the Fantastic Four movies, they pick a director that has no prior experience of directing action films like this. And because he has no prior experience of directing action films, he doesn't have any idea how to direct an action film on their own. And because of that, the movie suffers. The action isn't shot very well. Most of the jokes aren't really all that funny. You don't feel any connection between any of the main characters. And there are a couple of decent moments in there where Jensen uses his hands as guns as we cut back to another building and it's actually Cougar shooting the guards. That's a cool scene, but Even scenes like watching Zoe Saldana using a rocket launcher should be badass, but it's one of the most laughingly bad scenes in the movie, because you got this woman who clearly looks like she's way too skinny to hold up this big machete, and you just expect her to go like flying off the building as soon as she shoots the gun off. Spill.com had a great joke of that in their review, and we see Zoe Saldana can be a badass, the Star Trek movies, but this just doesn't feel like a character she should have played as. Wikipedia described Alice as the loose cannon identified by her eyebrow piercing and tied black hair, partnering with the losers in a light of the common goal of killing Max Shield in all combat skills, with particular emphasis on melee and reconnaissance, stemming from a harsh upbringing in Afghanistan and Pakistan, primarily fighting as a child against Soviet soldiers during the Soviet war in Afghanistan. She's a cold-blooded killer who prefers to leave corpses rather than survivors when she emerges with the enemy. Do you see that when you see Zoe Saldana in this movie? Of course you don't. And they tried to do this again with her the following year with Colombiana, and that movie wasn't that great, but we've seen nowadays that she has gone on to become such a badass with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and of course with the Star Trek films that came out after that, and so many other ones as well, but this just was not meant to be for her, and you know, the rest of the cast in this is just wasted. Everybody in here, like Idris Elba and Chris Evans, you know they were trying to squeeze something out of them, but the movie hardly lets them do anything because it's wasting its time on this really bad, cartoonish villain. I mean, when Jason Patric's career highlight is Speed 2 Cruise Control, you've had a bad career, man, and they start stealing problems from other movies. They start stealing plots from bad movies, like The Specialist. Like, it's bad enough you have to steal from a Sylvester Stallone movie, but a movie like The Specialist you gotta steal from? That's a problem. That's a big problem. And, like, I'm trying my best to find something here, but other than that, there's just nothing there. It's a script that wastes a good cast on a terrible script with bad direction, lazy action sequences, a cartoonish villain, and stupid scenes that are more hilarious than intimidating. And you wanna know who wrote this? Peter Berg and James Vanderbilt. Let me get this straight. Peter Berg, who up to his career had directed a good action movie one after another before destroying his credibility basically with Battleship, and James Vanderbilt, who wrote Zodiac, one of David Fincher's best movies, wrote this. Like, these guys have credibility. There's no reason why this movie should be as bad as it is. Like, this is unbelievable how terrible this is. Like, there's nothing. Let me paraphrase Urinating Tree from his Dark Castle review, because this really needs to be mentioned. It's just like, guys, there's nothing really more that I need to say about this movie that hasn't already been said. This is just shit. It's just a bad adaptation, a bad action movie. Wondering why the A-Team was the best of the Men on the Mission films in 2010? Go watch this movie and experience the bullshit for yourself, because that's really what you need to experience with this movie. This is a steaming pile of bullshit, man. I would rather watch Red than I would watch The Losers again. And Red is not a great movie either, but we'll delve into that as we continue on in the year. But let's go ahead and try to lighten the mood here a little bit. It's Earth Day, and the environment needs another Disney nature movie, apparently, because Earth was such a success last year. So, fuck it. Let's take a look at Oceans. Yeah, it's not a good sign that you have this movie that came out and was pretty much forgotten almost immediately. But this is Oceans, written, produced, and directed by Jacques Perrin, with Jacques Clouzard as co-director, and produced in association with the Census of Marine Life, exploring the marine species of Earth's 5 oceans, and reflects on the negative aspects of human activity on the environment, with Pierce Brosnan doing the narration for it as Perrin. And this was a film filmed in over 50 different places around the world, and took 4 years to film, and it cost $80 million to produce. And it just barely made that money after worldwide grosses, $82.7 million worldwide. Yeah, I barely remember this movie. In fact, it's funny because this actually opened as the #1 movie at the box office on its first day, and then just got overshadowed by all the other competition. This was a bad weekend for the movies, to the point where How to Train Your Dragon, which had not been the #1 movie for the last couple of weeks, actually moved back up into this spot. I mean, that's how bad the weekend was in general in terms of new releases. And yeah, this film really wasn't helping all that much. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it certainly isn't as good as something like Earth. It just felt like an obligation because Earth was such a success from the year before, and it just didn't feel like it really added anything new to it that wasn't already seen already. I mean, unless you were showing this on an IMAX screen, then maybe, just maybe, this was worth seeing on a big screen. But there really is nothing in here that makes this stand out or anything that unique in general. It's just kind of there, and there's really not much more I can add to it per se. It's not bad, but it just feels kind of pointless in the long run. But, yeah, so that's all I got for you on that one. That's Ocean. So let's go ahead and move on to this last film we have here. Before Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool, before he was even the Green Lantern, he was in an independent movie where he played a superhero, and that is Paperman.
The world is in peril. When evil surrounds you, when danger...
It's funny enough, that was what Ryan Reynolds was doing every time he was trying to get Deadpool sold by studios. It's just like, they were trying to... He opens the door and he starts going to the superhero talk, and then they just slam the door on him. But, yeah, this is a movie that is, one you may have never heard of, and there's probably a good reason for that, unfortunately. It stars Jeff Daniels as a struggling writer who relies on a childhood imaginary friend to help him with life decisions. And that imaginary friend is Ryan Reynolds as the imaginary Captain Excellent. And there's also a story about a 17-year-old high school student who befriends him, played by Jeff Daniels, played by Emma Stone. And Lisa Kudrow plays his wife in here. Kieran Culkin is also in here. The directors and writers of this are Kieran and Michelle Mulroney. The names you might not be familiar with, but they almost made a Justice League movie before we eventually got to 2017 movie. They were going to do that movie that they were going to do with... I think it was, what was it, George Miller, I think, was going to do it. It was right before the writer's strike happened, and then as soon as the writer's strike happened, it's just kind of like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And so they were the writers on that movie, and they hadn't really done a whole lot since then, and that was really kind of their big thing in general, but they have written some movies. They wrote the sequel to Sherlock Holmes, The Game of Shadows, and they wrote the story for Power Rangers. But other than that, though, it's pretty much all you got for this movie in general. This isn't even really that great of a movie. It's kind of a boring movie, kind of like a boring version of a much better superhero dark superhero comedy, if you want to go down that route. Super, that came out a year later, directed by James Gunn, that featured Rainn Wilson and Ellen Page. Kind of had a similar plot to it per se, is in some areas, but this one was just boring, and really, it's a really lackluster film. It's a movie that really doesn't use Ryan Reynolds all that well. It just feels like he's just kind of there to just be Ryan Reynolds as a superhero, and that's pretty much it. The other characters you can't really get invested in. There's just nothing in here that kind of makes it work. It just feels kind of pointless overall. It just isn't worth it in the end. It's just, you think it's something interesting because it's Ryan Reynolds as a superhero. You may have never heard of this movie, but then again, there's probably a good reason why, and the movie is the movie is not that good. So, yeah, that's about all I got to say about this one. That's Paperman for you. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, it's the penultimate week, the week before the summer movie season, and we have 4 films trying to fight for the box office before the summer competition comes in and mops the floor with all of them. And the biggest one of them all is Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, which sounds incredible, but then you got to talk about the problems, specifically the makeup, and we'll delve into that on the next episode. And we have a movie that's even more scarier than A Nightmare on Elm Street. Brendan Fraser in the lowest point of his career, which is hard to believe, with Furry Vengeance. We have Michael Caine starring in a Death Wish-esque thriller, Harry Brown, and then the most controversial movie of the year, and that is, of course, The Human Centipede First Sequence. If you don't know what that movie is, consider yourself lucky. But if you want to know, tune in tomorrow and you'll see what this movie is. So, with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button. Like button, subscribe button, notification button. There we go. I keep forgetting that this is mirrored, that I'm looking at the camera right now, but hit those on the bottom, check out the playlist, and also check out our last episode. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.